Oh hey, didn't see you there. This little lady was staring at me through the door while I started recording, and now you want to leave. Like, what is the point of you? Last weekend I was away in MegaCon in London with a few friends, and unfortunately that meant that I was exhausted when I got back, so there was no plan for a video, unfortunately, this time around. But here we are, back, and we're ready for more. Now, my original plan for this weekend was to cook something out of this lovely new book that I've got, the official Stardew Valley cookbook. And I was originally planning on doing this wonderful pink cake, which for anyone who plays Stardew Valley regularly will know that Haley absolutely loves this. So I bought all the ingredients, just about. I didn't get a few of them because they didn't have any, which already posed a few problems that I kind of had to navigate around. But then I thought, wait, I'm actually going on holiday in a couple of days. Am I going to be able to devour an entire cake in the space of 2 to 3 days? And the answer was no, I don't think I'd be able to do that. So instead, I've just decided to come up with a quick recipe that I think everyone will enjoy, which uses a lot of sort of leftover ingredients in your house, so it's very, very handy for you, the viewer, in case you want to have a lovely, lovely tasty treat this springtime. So I've got this protege called Gordon Ramsay, living up to expectations. He's been creating a few different things, you might have heard of him. And basically, he did this one recipe that I watched on YouTube a while ago, which basically is a eggy bread with some caramelized apples and icing sugar on top, and it is absolutely delicious. And it just sort of uses up lots of leftover ingredients that you might throw away or might start to go stale on things, but it's a perfect recipe to use if you want to have something nice and filling and sweet on a weekend, or perhaps on a miserable Wednesday, or whenever I decide to upload this video, probably today. Anyone that knows me knows that I film sort of all my videos on one day and I edit them in one day because I don't have time to do it throughout the week because I have a job. And that means I can't do this all the time. So that's why I often skip a week, because it's tricky to maintain. But I'm giving it my best go. I'm starting 2025 strongly. So in terms of ingredients, we've got all sorts of lovely, delectable items that you might find around your house. I've got some apples, I've got some eggs, I've got a little bit of ground cinnamon, I've got some butter, some milk, some handy dandy icing sugar, some regular sugar, and then also some bread. And usually you would use something like a sourdough or maybe a better sort of loaf, but all we have is sliced bread at the minute, which means that I can't do that because we also need to wait for it to go a bit stale. You know what? I could try juggling these like I did with the onions in the onion soup video, which by the way, you should check out if you haven't, because it is amazing and it's easily the best soup that I have ever created in my life. Have I ever shown you the trick that I do with apples, by the way? So I learnt this from Would I Lie to You from Bob Mortimer, and basically he takes an apple in the hand and he cracks it open barehanded. So let me try it and see if it works. It's not quite working. They're too small. God, this is embarrassing. Okay, no one look. No one look. I can see Elle staring at me through the... Oh! I did it. I did it. I did it. I did it. Look at me. Look at me. I'm an apple god. Look, directly in half. Barehanded. So first thing to do is to chop up all your lovely apples, or crack them in half with your hands. It's whatever you want to do, really. First thing we want to do is take out your stem. Nice and easy, just twist it, chuck it away, and then we're basically just gonna cut out the core and just get some nice big chunks of apple with the skin on. You don't need to worry about taking it off, because if you cook it down later, the idea is that the skin will keep it nice and intact, so you just kind of want to just keep it like big large chunks. So what I'm gonna do, cut off the tops and the bottoms as well, cut out the cores, and then just have like these big sort of sized chunks of apple, and that's totally fine. Big slice. Look at that. Amazing. And I always keep like a little bowl just on the side where I can just sort of throw rubbish away. It's nice and handy. Very easy. Good tip that I learnt from, you know, my years and years that I spent in culinary school, as you all know. My regular viewers will know that I'm a really, really, really strong chef in the kitchen. I always put in a top performance. I'm just a top lad. You know me. I always like doing this recipe. I haven't done it in a very long time, actually, but I just love doing this recipe just because it literally just uses up leftover ingredients that you might have just lying around in the kitchen, and, you know, just make something like really nice and tasty when you might not necessarily be feeling well, or you just fancy like a bit of a sweet treat. This is like the perfect thing. And I'm not like a huge fan of like warm apples. Like if someone makes like an apple pie or something, I'm just not necessarily like a huge fan of like eating that sort of thing. But this recipe, just because of like the amount of butter and sugar and just all around goodness that you get from it, is just so delicious, and it just is so fun to do as well. And it doesn't take too long as well. It's a very quick sort of recipe that you can do. You don't need too many skills as well. Like, I'm literally just like hacking away at apples. So you don't need to be like a complete whiz in the kitchen. You don't need to know like loads of cool like tricks or anything, because that's what cooking should be. It's just all about having fun and just having a good time. There are the big chunks. I've got chunks of apple. There's apple there. Apple. You could say that I'm the apple of your eye. You know what? I shouldn't have done that because I recently brushed my teeth, so now I've got that horrible, like, teeth brush feeling. Now you know the thing. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna turn on our induction hob and take our pot and just put it in sort of a medium heat. And the first thing we want to do is just put a little bit of oil. Because remember that trick that I told you last time? I want to put a little bit of olive oil, and then we're gonna put in lots of butter, and we're just gonna let the apples, like, all caramelize and get, like, all nice and good and fun, and then fry them off in there, add a little bit of sugar, and it's just gonna be beautiful, and you're gonna love it. We're gonna prepare our sort of eggy base. So what I've got, because I'm not really doing a huge amount, is I've only got 2 eggs, but usually you'd want to use maybe like 4 or 6 or something if you're like cooking for a lot of different people. But for the time being, I've only got 2 eggs because I'm just cooking it for me and me alone. No one else is getting any of this, and sure as hell not Elle. I don't think she'd really like it anyway. Elle usually eats stuff off the floor. Maybe I could throw all of this on the floor afterwards. That would work out well. So I've cracked 2 eggs in there, 2 whole eggs. You don't need to worry about doing that whole thing where you like split yolks and whites. You don't need to worry about that. Just throw it all in there. Next up, we'll whack in a bit of milk in there as well. Very milky and good and fun. Look at that. It's like we're making scrambled eggs. You can't even see it because it's like, like if I tilt it, maybe if I go like this. There you go. There's my milk and eggs. Next up, we're gonna just chuck a bunch of sugar in. I don't know how much you need to put in, but I just like putting in like a good glug. Nice sugary goodness. The final flourish is some cinnamon. So basically, take your cinnamon, and again, just sort of drizzle. You don't really need to put in like too much, but you know, a good glug, just so you have that cinnamon goodness. There it is. Look how appetizing and delicious that looks. Right, next up, crouching down because this is just where the camera angle is at the minute. It's like I'm doing squats or something. Next up, you take your whisk, or if you don't have a whisk, you can use a fork as well, and just sort of mix it all up so it's all nice and consistent and all round mixed. See, if I had to do this with that pink cake that I was planning on doing, the recipe said that you had to do that for 20 minutes, do mixing. See, I could do this for just like a few minutes. There you go, mixed. It looks fun. You can see all the cinnamon there. It looks terrible, not gonna lie. The oil will now be nice and warm, so now butter in. Perfect. So we're just going to let that all cook away and get all nice and buttery and fun. That's the best way you want to describe it. You know, like, cookbooks use all sorts of, like, weird words to describe things, but, like, buttery and fun, I feel like that should be involved a bit more. So at the same time as that, we can basically just put in all of our apples. There's no need to hang about. We're chucking them all in. Toss it around, let all the butter and the oil just coat all of the apples all. And then we're basically just going to let that all stew away for a little bit. You might be thinking, Cameron, hey, how you doing? But you might also be thinking, Cameron, why are you using stale bread for this? What's the point? You know that mixture that we made before? You want to dip your bread in the egg, and once you fry it off, if you use sort of like fresh bread, it makes it really soggy, and you kind of want to have a nice sort of golden brown crispy sort of bread that you use. So we're going to dip this all into the egg and like dry off all the excess, and then we're going to fry it in some olive oil and butter, and that's going to be sort of like our eggy bread that we'll have, and it's also infused with like cinnamon, and it's got that sugary taste as well to it, so it's like really nice and sweet and really delicious as well. And the apples are all appling, which is good, because generally you want the apples to apple. I think the most challenging thing about doing all these videos as well is the fact that I have to be my own cameraman. Anyway, but it also means that I have to quickly adapt like shots, and I can't be certain if they all come out okay, so you'll have to apologize if you're expecting some really high quality like video recording and editing and stuff. You've come to the wrong channel for that, I'm afraid, my friend. So your basic strategy is I've got my mixture all in here, you just let it drop in, flip it around a few times, and literally that's it, and then just maybe like shake it off a little bit, but that's basically all you're doing here. Oil into this pan and get that all nice and heated, and I'm also going to put in some butter as well. So again, you just want a quick little knob of butter, you don't need too much. I realize that that may look a bit too much, but you know, I watch a lot of Marco Pierre White, so you can understand why I put in a lot. In the meantime, feel free to have one singular grape as a snack. Oh, it's really sour. Oh, it tastes like toothpaste. And you can also just see some of them getting all like really nice and pink in there as well. And it just really brings out the color of them. So it looks really, really good. I'm happy so far. And if it gets a bit too dry in the pot, you can just add in a splash of water as well. And this is the other thing that you don't necessarily need. It's called icing sugar, but you can add some icing sugar on the very end of your apples and eggy bread and just basically use like a sieve or something and just sprinkle it sort of on top. And it just gives it a bit more richness and a bit more sugary goodness. And it keeps you energetic for about 20 minutes and then you crash out because you just have an overwhelming sugar rush. It's lots of fun. Cooking apples, just like every other Sunday, am I right, guys? So you'll know when this pan is ready when it starts to like smoke a little bit and you maybe see like a little bit of bubbling in the oil and butter. I also like it that if I put my face in it like this, then my glasses start to steam up too. This is probably a great idea to put my face into a pan of oil and butter. Don't try this at home. So I'm just going to do like 2 at a time because that's the amount of space I have in the pan. This bread is also falling apart because it's too thin and horrible, but it's okay. Again, this menu is designed to be something that you can just do really easily at home, so don't worry about it being all fancy and schmancy. All right, we're going to whack it in there. It's not sizzling, but let's turn up the heat. Guys, look, I look like the hash-slinging slasher. Cut. So I've got a good example of what you don't want. So this is me having put in a bit of the bread with the eggy mixture on it, and it's not really frying like really nice and loudly yet. So this is what you don't want. So don't do this at home. Also, Apple update, they're still bubbling and sizzling and getting all groovy and fun. You see the sizzle there? Again, no one here signed up for high quality video editing. We signed up for apples, right? Also, the smell of all the butter just sort of wafting through the kitchen is so delicious also. You might be able to hear it now. I'll pop my microphone closer to it. Listen to that. Looking good. And just give your apples a good mix every now and again, just so they're all getting a good coating of butter and oil. Beautiful and golden brown. Look at that. It looks so good. Like, I'm so happy with that. So that's basically just a combination of eggs, milk, cinnamon, and sugar. It is wonderful. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. That's the beauty of Kanban's Kitchen. We do things adequately. The other thing that you want to be careful of is that if this pot gets a little bit dry, because a lot of the bread will suck in a lot of the moisture from the oil and the butter, is you want to make sure that both sides are getting really nice and easily coated with lots of oil and butter. So if it does look like it's like sort of thin, you can see it there getting a little bit drier, you can just add in a touch more butter and that will make it fry nice and golden brown if it is getting a little bit too burnt. I've also tried a new style of filming this week, so we'll have to see feedback on how that goes. So if you have any, just let me know. Basically, I film everything on my iPhone. Like, this is all on an iPhone, and it's basically using the cinematic option on like the scrolly thing at the bottom. So I've done all that for all of the shots here. So whether it focuses or not is a different question, but let's hope so. Now I'm gonna take my eggy bread and get ready to serve. And you can just sort of pile them on top of each other. You don't really need to do anything too crazy about this here. And the apples are also just about done as well. So now I'm just gonna plate these all on here. Again, presentation isn't the massive necessity of this whole ordeal, but don't worry about it. So I'm just going to chuck on all the apples on like this. They're all nice and soft now and looking delicious. And then the other exciting bit is in the pan, we also have a lot of like oil and butter, which makes a really nice like drizzly sauce that you can put on top. So we can just put on like a little touch of the butter and the oil like that. And it's just sort of a nice sort of syrupy texture that it gives it. And this is going to be the thumbnail. Everyone pose. But it looks really good. I'm really happy with it. I'm going to take it upstairs and I'm going to eat it, and I'm going to bring you guys with me so you can see me eating it. I walked by and Scott already had a bite of it and he said it was lovely and delicious. So let me have the final say. And also, it's just so good. It's so filling and fun. Like, look at that. How is that not fun? That is so good. The apples could probably have been done a little bit longer. The other thing that I didn't do is I didn't steam them with the extra water as well, which can help just to make it cook through the entire way. But if you like to have a little bit of bite or a little bit of crunch, not doing the apples as long is a good idea. It just adds a bit more texture and a bit more layers to your caramelized apples as well. So if you fancy doing it like that, then you can. I'm gonna eat this now. That is me all completely finished up with the apples and the eggy bread. It was so good. It's just so nice just to be able to do something nice and easy, nice and quick with lots of leftover ingredients on like a Sunday evening or afternoon or whatever. So it's just such basic ingredients as well to use. But for now, I am going to end the video then and there. So if you did enjoy them, please feel free to do all the usual, you know, liking and subscribing and all that jazz. And seeing as I am going abroad next week, we'll see if there's a video. I'm going to try and put something together before I head off, but I do have a lot of work to do for my actual job before I go away. So fingers crossed and we will see. But if not, I will see you guys when I see you. I upload every Sunday. I've got all my socials in the link below, so if you fancy following me on anything else, then please feel free to. But until then, I hope you have the best Sunday evening ever, or, you know, whenever you're watching this video, and the next week treats you completely right as you deserve. Anyway, I will see you then, and take care, everyone. Bye-bye.